The Times next, and Josh, is David Starkey overrated?
Well, that's it. Equality is overrated, says David Starkey. Now, he lost his honorary fellowship at Cambridge a couple of years ago for his comments on slavery. But he was at this literary festival. He's 78 years old, and he said a couple of things. And what's kind of interesting about this article in the Times is it quotes what he says, and I'll say that in a sec, but it doesn't then go on to explain what he meant by it. He's obviously a very intelligent man, and I'm sure he was saying these things, and he could have been saying them to be provocative. But the gist of it was, he says, human beings should not be equal. He said, human rights are a catastrophe, and Britain is a quasi-apartheid society. Now, that sounds bad, but I don't have anything to actually counter it, because it doesn't then say what the context was.
Yeah,
right.
It deliberately sounds bad, because it's a hit piece against Starkey is what it is. You can tell. And they include this thing, audience members at the festival expressed surprise that Starkey had been invited. Oh, did they? That one of our foremost historians was invited to the festival. Did that bother you, low IQ people in the crowd? I mean, it's so stupid. I mean, he's saying that inequality is inevitable, which it is. Like, I'm funny, smart, good-looking, right? But I can't cook. Things are not totally equal across the board, Josh. We have different skills.
Yeah, and I've got much lesser quotient of delusion.
It's tough, exactly, it's tough. But, and his point about, when he says an quasi-apartheid society, Starkey often uses quite sort of provocative language, but what he means is, he says that we've introduced all these different rights groups, you know, identity politics, so everyone has their separate rights. And we have sort of, certain groups can say and do basically anything, others have to walk on eggshells, and I think that's what he's alluding to.
I mean, exactly, we talk about systemic racism, but really, if you're going to talk about systemic bias, I mean, the people who are walking on eggshells are the people who are discriminated against.
I know, but saying things like we've introduced these human rights like gay rights and black rights and trans rights, and they're inherently divisive. But I don't think gay rights are inherently divisive, or black rights. Arguably trans rights are, because they're a form of rights that take away from another protected group, i.e. women's rights. But black rights and gay rights don't take away from anybody else's rights.
I think the point he could be making there is, you know, so with you know, for example, the Macpherson report, we've had this incredible drive to try and not be racist, which is, you know, an admirable objective.
And you're getting
there. We should all try and not be racist. But it's led to things like, so for example, the Manchester Arena bomber wasn't apprehended because the security guard was worried about looking racist. The grooming gangs weren't apprehended because the police, the social services were worried about looking racist. So it can have incredibly damaging effects.
Yeah, and when he talks about gay rights, remember Starkey's gay, and he was gay at a time when it was not exactly a picnic, and he was from Cumbria, born in Kendal, same as me. Not a great time to be gay, so he's hardly having an attack on gay rights. He's talking about identity politics.
OK, well, like I say, the article is very disingenuous because it doesn't actually say or place any of this in context, which is very frustrating.